We fall captive to the herd animal if we cannot reach the individual divinity in ourselves. It takes 2 years for a child to realize that it is an independent being. Of course, this is not what the 2-year-old proudly announces on his 2nd birthday. Yet, he dimly realizes that he and his mother are separate people. He understands that he is somebody, but he does not know yet who that is. The boy will spend the rest of his life figuring that out. And because the question of identity is a tricky one, he will need help. Human beings are social creatures. This means that we need social cues to maintain a stable psyche. Otherwise, we go insane. Yet, society has its dangers too. When we settle into the hustle and bustle of everyday life, we lose our individual identity. So everyone finds themselves within the same predicament. How can we respect our social nature and still go our own way? Nothing is so difficult as not deceiving oneself. Identity is not something that you can simply create on your own. It is constantly negotiated with other people. Without social feedback, we wouldn't be able to develop a sense of self. If you deprive a person of all social interactions, he will soon lose his mind. Because a human being is far too complex to be managed by one mind alone. One could therefore argue that sanity is not a one-man job, but a joint enterprise. We need other people around us that confirm or challenge our experience of reality. We need a shared narrative that maps the terrain of our life to live without confusion and mania. But the man is, writes Emerson, clapped into jail by his consciousness. As soon as he has once acted or spoken with éclat, he is a committed person, watched by the sympathy or the hatred of hundreds, whose affection must now enter into his account. As long as we are embedded within social environments, we receive constant feedback about our behavior. If we tell boring stories, our friends won't listen. If we crack lame jokes, people won't laugh. If we do things well, people will respect or even admire us. Assuming we place ourselves in groups of genuine and honest people, this mechanism will maintain our identity. If this process is disrupted, things go downhill quickly. We see this with celebrities all the time. As soon as they surround themselves with fans and admirers, they start to lose a healthy sense of self. This can lead to conditions that resemble the situation of very lonely or even mentally ill people. If your social surroundings stop putting you into your place, you lose touch with reality. I have done it, says my memory. I cannot have done it, says my pride, and remains inexorable. Finally, the memory gives way. Yet, this social machinery also has its dark side. No wonder that nowadays there's a feeling of catastrophe in the air, as though an avalanche had broken loose, which nothing can stop. The collective man threatens to stifle the individual man, on whose sense of responsibility everything valuable in mankind ultimately depends. In Brave New World, there's a scene that shows the problem with social dependence. The novel is set in a futuristic world state, which is managed by biological engineering and reproductive technology. People are created and designed to occupy a precisely determined place within society. However, there also is Bernard. He's the guy who is out of it because in his fetal fluid they got an alcohol contaminant, and so he's different from anybody else in this society. Therefore, he occasionally has original thoughts. He and his girlfriend are in a helicopter and they sweep out past the crematorium. As he suspends the helicopter over the Black Bay, she immediately becomes very agitated, restless, anxious, and pleads with him to return to the city. It's her anxiety over being alone in the presence of nature that freaks her out. Because she is a product of this totalitarian society, she literally can't take it to be on her own, far away from the crowd. I think there are a lot of people in our society, and each of us in our own way at different times, who have within us this neurotic and infantile creature that can't face it alone. Although a lack of company threatens sane conduct, society has its own pernicious ways of inhibiting healthy character development. The exact same mechanism that contributes to the formation of a civilized identity can turn into a pathological driving force. While it is useful to be knocked into shape, it is crucial to retain one's authentic self. Otherwise, we behave like conforming puppets held in an immature and two-dimensional version of our true selves. When I'm among the many, I live as the many do. and I do not think as I really think. After a time, it always seems as though they want to banish me from myself and rob me of my soul. I then require the desert, so as to grow good again. However, this desert is what most people cannot bear. Being focused on fitting in, we are so addicted to the feedback of others that we lose ourselves. If we cannot endure solitude once in a while, we've clearly developed a childlike dependence on other people. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone. And if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free. Constraint is always present in society, like a companion of whom there is no riddance. A healthy society is made up of sovereign individuals. If this precondition is not fulfilled, society disintegrates. In this sense, the world's greatest problems are closely linked to individual shortcomings. Of course, we can't get control of the world because we are children in some profound way. Culture has reinforced a kind of infantilism. It's an unwillingness to go it alone. Anxiously, we look round for collective measures, thereby reinforcing the very mass-mindedness we want to fight against. There's only one remedy for the leveling effect of all collective measures, and this is to emphasize and increase the value of the individual. So, how can we strengthen our individuality without leaving society? Well, it looks as if we have to find a path that reconciles the demands of civilization with the individual spark of each person. One way of achieving this is articulated by Rollo May in his book Man's Search for Himself. The hallmark of courage in our age of conformity is the capacity to stand on one's own convictions. If we always adapt to whatever is popular at the moment, we are safe from criticism and irritation. Conformity means blending in with the herd. Breaking free from this comfortable safe space, therefore, means opening oneself up to danger. This is why the journey to individuality requires courage. If we make our own decisions, we alone must take responsibility for them. To live alone, one must be either a beast or a god, says Aristotle, leaving out the third case. One must be both. Leaving the herd may seem scary, but the sanity of society depends on such people. They are the solid pillars of society and a force against totalitarianism. Remember, a single person that stops lying can bring down a tyranny. Only if we manage to be an integral part of society and sovereign individuals at the same time, we will be free. Madness is something rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, peoples and ages, it is the rule. If we can work up the courage, we will be richly rewarded. By stepping out of the comforts of conformity, we tap into a completely new dimension of being. We get to know our real self, our genuine thoughts and feelings. Nothing is more exciting than being introduced to oneself. If we lose ourselves in a collective identity instead, this huge area remains undiscovered. This is precisely the risk modern man runs. He may wake up one day to find that he has missed half his life. If we have the courage to be ourselves despite of social pressure, we can start to customize our surroundings. Because, as individuals, we can shape society by virtue of participation. We can bring something to the table that nobody else can provide. Although sticking out comes with its dangers, it does not mean at all to live a life devoid of joy. Quite the contrary. Believe me, the secret of the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment of existence is to live dangerously. What do you think about this tension between society and the individual? Do you think social media helps or worsens this issue? Write your thoughts down into the comments below. And if you're new, feel free to subscribe to the channel. See you next week. Thanks for watching.